Good morning, Alta Realty Group agents. This is Kevin Lauren, the Director of Training and Marketing here. And today, as normal, I'm joined by Bill Seitz, our liaison for Clearview Mortgage. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Kevin. How are we today?
We are fantastic. And we've also got Travis on the line as well. Let's bring Travis on. Good morning, Travis. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Very well, thanks. All right, cool. So, Bill, Bill just got back from an awesome trip back to Michigan with one of our mortgage partners, one of our banking partners. And so, Bill, it's just every time you go back there, it's just like a breath of motivation, and it's like you've just come back from some kind of rah-rah rally. So I love it. And so I want you to kind of give us an overview of what that trip was like and all that good stuff.
Rah-rah rally is the perfect it's the perfect way to describe it, Kevin. But first and foremost, good morning to everybody. I know it's good to be back for myself. I've been gone for a couple of weeks, and I do enjoy these webinars. I think it's a good way for all of us to connect briefly for the week and go over the different things that Kevin and Travis have to share, and then things that I'm sharing as well. I want to apologize for my speech. It's a little bit off this morning. My close friends and people that work with me know that yesterday I had to have a front tooth extraction. And so I actually had to go to the oral surgeon yesterday afternoon and get tortured. It was an absolute nightmare for anybody who's gone through this process. I can now commiserate, and I'm wearing a weird little, like, they call it a flipper, and it's a temporary tooth that they put in there, not to gross anyone out, but this is the reason why my speech is a little bit off this morning. Until the bone heals for the implant, they actually can put in a fake, a fresh, nice tooth. So once again, I'm getting used to this new flipper thing. So,
you're doing great, buddy.
I apologize there. Anyways, at least nobody has to look at me directly this morning.
There we go.
There we go. So yeah, good to be back, everybody. Last week was a great trip for me. This is the second trip back to visit our number one banking partner, United Wholesale, and they run a first-rate operation out there in Pontiac, Michigan. And so what they did is they invited myself out for a 2-day broker owner course, training, leadership, talking about growth, where the industry's headed, what they're doing to make the experience better for realtors and mortgage brokers and people in the wholesale world. So I got a really intense 2-day, training and exposure to leadership and all that good stuff. And this is their facility here, which doesn't really do it justice. This is a 600,000 foot facility. Wow. That they've grown into, and they've just purchased the 900,000 square foot facility across the street for future expansion.
Oh my gosh. And
just to give perspective, this company was smaller in volume than Clearview is today in 1986. And wow. They only had, I believe it was 10 employees, founded by two people. And they now have over 4,100 employees, and they do over $7 billion in mortgage loans.
Wow. And where does that stand amongst, the other big boys in the industry?
So they are the number one wholesale lender, period. There's wow. nobody that can touch them. You have competitors like Quicken, right? Guaranteed Rate. Some of these other guys are in the wholesale space, but they also are in the retail space. And does anyone know the difference between retail and wholesale?
I do, Bill.
Okay. Go for it.
I was going to say, go ahead, pal.
Oh, okay. Well, retail banking is basically, your Bank of America, your Wells Fargo, all your big traditional banking that provide a bunch of banking services across different different needs, right? They do, consumer banking, they do checking and savings, they do investment, they do all that stuff with the customer direct, right? Wholesale banking is essentially a bank like United Wholesale working with another mortgage, maybe like a mortgage broker or another banking partner, which then they deal with the consumer ultimately. So we are in the wholesale channel, and so for those of you who didn't maybe know that really is the difference between a wholesale and retail banking. We actually on the wholesale side deal with the consumer on our end. And then we deal with the bank on the other side of it, like United Wholesale. So this is our number one partner. These guys are incredible. They run a first-rate operation, and I just want to do a little walk through my trip and do something different here. We'll do it quickly.
Sure.
And what I really like about their organization is they are very organized, top to bottom. They all share the same philosophy. They all believe in the same type of commitment to, and this is what they really pride themselves on. This is what the organization calls their 6 pillars. And it's the people of their organization. It's service, of course, right? Have to have service. They're relationship driven. And I like this one, thumb pointers. These are they always say that if you have an issue with work or real estate or whatever, and if you're the guy that blames or the guy or gal that blames people, well, they really ask you to reflect on that and say, how could you have done a better job? So if maybe somebody falls short on something that you expected them to do, maybe could be anything from getting a contract back to scheduling anything in my world as well. Maybe I didn't do a good enough job communicating, and so the thumb's going to be pointing back at myself and not at the other person. They are big believers in that and taking accountability. And I think
Bill, that's a really good one.
I think this stuff translates to all of us. I don't care if you're in the mortgage side where I'm at day to day, or if you're in the real estate side day to day. I think we can all take something from that. I think that's a big part of most society in general, but that's a whole nother issue.
Right. Let's leave that one alone for today.
Right. Continuous improvement, of course, right? We should all be trying to get better at what we do. Come to work with a humble attitude, always try to get better, try to improve yourself and the people around you. You're going to be more successful and you're going to make more money. And then obviously the last one is fun and friendship. Obviously corporate work environment that has fun and that is a good environment to work in. It's going to be a nice, productive place. So I really think that they've done a great job in outlining the type of people they're attracting to their organization, and something that we want to adopt too as Alta and Clearview. We want to attract like-minded people that are positive, people that are working together for common goals, and people that are accountable for what they need to do on a day-to-day basis, right?
The buck stops here.
So let's keep moving, Kevin.
All right, perfect. I'll pull the next slide up for you. This is awesome.
Yeah, so for those basketball fans, the owner, Matt Ishbia, he was on the national championship team with Michigan State back in, I want to say 2000 and I forget. I think it was when Michigan State played North Carolina, and you can see it says Mateen Cleaves on the bottom there. He was the point guard. Matt Ishbia was a walk-on. Probably could have gone to any Division II school that he wanted to as a starting point guard. Ended up going to Michigan State. He is the leader of this company, and he's taken his dad's mortgage company and turned it into the number one wholesale lender in the country. And when you look, there's a timeline as you walk into their facility. They have this timeline of where the company originated with Dad in 1986 and to where it is today, and all the milestones that they've hit. And you look at this, and you're like, how is this even possible? And and what I've noticed is that Matt has taken his experience in competitive basketball and being coached by Tom Izzo and some of the best coaches in the
world,
basically in the sport, in the world, and he has taken those types of motivating, driving factors to install in his business and create a competitive, positive environment to grow and succeed in this business, in a highly competitive business. And so this
Yeah.
is really a kind of a symbol of how they compete and what they do on a day-to-day basis to be successful. And once again, I think we all need to compete in our various marketplaces, or various neighborhoods, or various things that we're doing. And I think this is a great way to reference that.
We're always competing, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
what we're doing. We're every listing, every sale, we're
right.
always competing, guys.
That's right. So this is just a picture from my trip from last year. There's me on the right with probably my brown tooth in there that's been extracted. We're going to get that taken care of. I swear it'll be much better in the future years. But, and then there's our account executive, Eric Campbell, great young man. He was a football player down in Detroit, and he's since moved into mortgage banking the last 8 years or so. And so he's been a fun guy to get to know, and a great guy and a great host. So that was up there for the little, post whatever, little wine and dine at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It was great. And let's keep moving there, Kev.
You got it.
One thing I do admire about them is they're committing themselves to technology. And, you start going, well, how's AI going to, I ask myself, well, how's AI going to factor into banking? How are things going to change? And things are changing so fast with technology that, what is it going to look like in 3 to 4 or 5, 6 years? Is there going to be a need for an LO? Is there going to be a need for this? Is it going to be completely automated? Well, I don't think, and based on what I'm hearing from Matt and other leaders in that space, is that it's not going to be completely automated. It's impossible.
It's possible.
People aren't going to want to do their transaction with a robot.
No, I mean, if these kinds of transactions are highly sensitive, there's no way, in my opinion, there's no way that a robot can, navigate all the different things that happen in a transaction. Are you kidding?
Exactly. And what really gives me confidence is hearing that Matt has purchased 900,000 square feet. So literally going from 600 and then adding 900,000 in anticipation of his future growth in this market share. Right now, wholesale banking is 20% of the overall mortgage pie. And he really wants to, his goal is to get mortgage bankers, wholesale lenders, to 40% of the mortgage pie. So right now, you might think 20% is not a lot, but it's massive from what it used to be.
Yeah.
So things are moving towards the broker channel. Things are moving in that direction, and he's anticipating that growth, and he's going to be leading the way. Here's the sales floor, just real quick. They have a very organized sales floor, and they have it color coded from green, depending on what team you're on. You can see these pillars, right? And then they got blue, and they've got, and you can imagine they've got anything from closing to underwriters to account executives. Everything is just organized and meticulously put together. It's really a first-rate deal.
That's why we're getting loans closed in 18 days.
Well, I think the next slide is kind of a let's go there, Kev.
Sure, let me pull that for you, my friend.
That's right. So when I go through this whole thing, and some of you guys might be getting bored by now, hopefully not, trying to at least move this along, but when you get, this is a loan we just closed last week, okay? This loan was cleared to close in less than 10 days, okay? So your purchase loan went from submission to CTC in 6 days. Well, how does that impact your guys' business? Well, you guys can be really competitive knowing that you have someone behind you that has the right partnership in this area. And right now, with the way the refinance, and I'm going to get into the rates real quick after this, but the way rates are, and they've been dropping continuously, and they may continue to drop for the foreseeable future. Well, imagine what that happens to the banking. Imagine the sphere of bankers in our space, whether it's retail, wholesale, doesn't matter. They're only staffed to the capacity they have. And as rates drop and you have refinances flooding the market, so now you have underwriters that are getting bombarded with refinances amongst all the purchase business. There's only so much capacity. So what happens? The underwriting times take longer. The processing takes longer. Everything gets pushed back further. If you don't have the right outlet, to be competitive, if you can't write a contract and say, hey, I can close in 21 days, I can close in 25 days, under 30 days, wherever it needs to be for your client, and be confident there, that's a problem. And right now, the average time for a loan to be closed is over 45 days, all mortgage banking combined. So to have this is an incredible advantage. So I just want to make that clear to you guys, what this translates to. So my trip back there represents our partnership with a first-rate banking operation, a first-rate company that understands what we're all going through, whether you're the realtor or on my end, the wholesale mortgage lender. We really have the right partnership in place for you guys to go out and execute. I want to just thank David Gill this morning. I'm not sure if he's on the webinar, but if he is, I want to thank him. He just signed up with Alta. He brought his first purchase loan over to us. He gave me an incredible compliment last week, just said, hey, I'm so beyond impressed with how you guys operate. We were actually trying to catch up to you guys, and you guys were ready to close, and we weren't. So he said he was nervous at first because everyone says, oh, in-house lender, they get a little bit scared. Are they going to be good? And he was just bullish. I'm going to try to get him to send a little testimonial. I couldn't track him down last night, but anyways, we closed that loan yesterday, and he's ecstatic. So anyways, I want to thank him if he's on the webinar this morning. And Kevin, before I know it take too much more of your time, I want to go into rates really quick to show everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do that. Of course. 1 second. Let me pull up the rates. Yeah, and one thing that is huge is, Bill ran a division of another mortgage company.
Yeah, retail.
Retail mortgage company for years. And in his words, a lot of times it was a white knuckle ride at the end. And the organization that we have now and all the things that we have in place, it takes all of that out. And we are, Bill is just ecstatic that he, has the infrastructure in place now that allows him and his team to literally kick butt.
Absolutely. And man, I when I was back east, I usually watch these things every other day. Probably, I see the rate. So when I'm, doing things during the day, mortgage related, I get rate sheet updates. The market's changing every single, hour. So this is a fluid environment. The 10-year treasury is changing, as in money's coming in and out of the marketplace. And so what reflects on mortgage rates, right? So sometimes I get a rate sheet change 3 times in one day. The market will literally, rates are low, rates are getting better, rates are getting worse, rates are getting better again. And this can happen 3 or 4 times during the course of the day. And I was back east last week, and I was listening to Matt talk about the 10-year. He's like, yeah, it's down to, 1.63. And I hadn't checked it because the weekend had gone over, and then I hadn't checked it in, I think, like 2 days. And I was like, what?
Look at this cliff it's dropped off, guys.
There it is right there. That's it, Kevin. And once again, this is important stuff, guys, because now the market is a refinance minimum. You probably hear on the radio. You're going to hear stuff, Quicken Loans, 2.99, 15 years. You're going to hear all this, solicitation. Oh, yeah. It all comes back flooding into the market, into radio stations and direct mail pieces and all this stuff. But my last comment is just remember, that's going to impact your purchase business. If all this refinances are pushing into the marketplace, there's only so much staff to handle all this stuff. If you don't have a good out on your purchase business, you could end up, not being able to perform, getting notices to perform, and being out of contract and having headaches. So just remember that as you guys are writing contracts, or if you want to get a second opinion, hey, what do you think you guys can do this loan for? Just give us a call. We'll try to, make it very clear for you what the expectation should be, so you guys can look good and make sure that you guys are getting those contracts. That's Absolutely. It for me, Kevin.
Well, very, very good, Bill. It's really important stuff, guys. And then also just, being able to educate your clients that you maybe sold them a house, a year ago when rates were completely different. You can inform them and let them know, hey, you know what? If you want, our in-house lender can take a look at your, your mortgage and see if we can drop your rate. So it's just a lot of other, really good things to be that service providing realtor to your people. So
100%. And guys, thank you for letting me just kind of take a lot of the airspace today because I've been gone a couple of weeks. But I think it's important that you know that what I'm doing behind the scenes, that I'm not, I kind of look at this as continuing education for
yes,
myself
yes.
and having those relationships out in the marketplace and meeting the reps and meeting the owners. And so I can bring this back to our company. And so we can all benefit from it. So that's really the reason why I wanted to share the trip and all that stuff. So
Much appreciated. So today we want to just basically talk about Skyslope, and we're not going to get into the ins and outs and the particulars of Skyslope, but just want to talk briefly about the importance of when you open a transaction. We want to make it very clear that that transaction needs to go into Skyslope immediately. And so really you've got, I think it's 48 hours, but if you've got a signed contract, you've got to get that into Skyslope immediately. And let me pull up, let me bring Travis on the line too as well. Travis, you can speak, right?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, good. So Travis, let just comment a little bit on the importance of, and this is all for compliance, guys. We all want to be in compliance at all times. So if you could just comment on the importance of Skyslope real quick.
Well, it's definitely for compliance. I mean, we want to stay compliant with the DRE at all times. So getting your documents in, letting us know that you have an open transaction, it's important for compliance. But the other side of it is it helps us start processing the documents too. If you're loading in all your documents, 2 days before closing, well, it puts us behind as well. And, we want to get everybody paid. We want to get CDAs out, in a timely fashion. But if everything's being thrown at us kind of at the end, it does slow us down on our end as far as the processing, which in turn can slow down, getting CDAs out and things like that. So it's kind of a help us help you as well.
100%.
Getting these documents in, just keeping the flow going the whole time. So
yeah, and then another thing I wanted to just have you comment on it is, some people are a little confused on the flow of what happens when documents are uploaded and when they're getting, reviewed by the broker and by, Kaylin perhaps. So if you could just go over the flow and the process of how it's supposed to work, I think that'll help a lot of the agents that are on the line as well.
Sure. So as the documents are uploaded, I mean, we don't have this open 24 hours a day. So we're usually in and out of there once a day, unless someone is, kind of like at the end of their escrow and they're like, hey, I just need the rest of these things, certified real quick so I can get the CDA out, things like that. But for the most part, I mean, we're in there, once a day, we do the files and then we leave the system. So for me, that's typically in the mornings. I get files out of the way in the morning. I may touch it again later in the afternoon. So just kind of keep that in mind that if you upload something, it's not necessarily going to be certified within 5 minutes. It may be the next day. Sometimes it's 2 days, just depending on kind of timing and things that are going on. So as well as volume that's in there. So definitely keep that in mind when you're uploading stuff. We do our best to get the CDAs out in a timely fashion, but they don't go out unless the file is basically 99% done. So excluding the VP and the final HUD, if you have everything else in there, the CDA is basically going to be coming over to you automatically if that's how we're set up with you.
That's perfect. And then what I wanted to also just kind of comment on is we do have in our Agent Resource Center, we do have a great tutorial for Skyslope if you're new to Skyslope. But then also don't hesitate to contact Skyslope directly. They are great. They have 24/7 support. This little chat feature right here is spectacular. They get right back to us. So if you have any questions about just uploading documents and doing certain things like that, don't hesitate to go directly to Skyslope. So not a problem at all. And then another quick thing is, we do have an in-house TC, Kaylin Rosen, and here's her information. She, of course, she'll TC the entire file. for a fee. But she'll also, she's a great resource. You can ask questions of Kaylin as well. So that's her contact information. And then any questions? I know a lot of people do have some questions individually about Skyslope. So if you just have a question, you just want to throw it in the chat, feel free to do that. Of course, you can always contact me directly, and I can direct you to the right resource. But really, Skyslope, it's a lot of people like it, don't like it. What it is for us is it just makes sure that we are in compliance. There's great things about it. There's things that it could probably work on, but it's our system, so we're using it. So if you have trouble, don't hesitate to reach out to me. But don't get scared of Skyslope and then not upload your your documents until the end of the file or until you're about to close, because that's what causes delays and minor disasters.
Delays and frustration, and
Exactly.
we don't want anybody to be frustrated with using a system. I highly encourage you, if you're having any sort of issue with it, obviously reach out to us, but I call the 24/7 support with Skyslope. They're super helpful. They'll get you through it probably much faster than any of us will.
Yeah.
Because this is their program, so they
right.
understand it well, and they handle calls, all day long, every day, from agents all over the United States. So definitely just reach out to them with questions if you need something, right away, and we haven't responded, that second, basically. Just give them a call real quick, or the chat, so they could probably walk you through it really quickly.
Yeah, the chat, I find the chat is really, really helpful. For me, it's I can be multitasking. I've got two screens. I can be doing something on another screen, chatting with an agent, getting, stuff done. So I prefer the chat myself, but they have great, just 24/7 support. So just however you need to contact them, do that.
Yep.
So guys, without further ado, I would like you guys to get back out there, make it a great week, make it a productive week. And if there's any questions directly, contact us, and we will see you guys next week on the webinar.